Welcome to our deep dive today. We're tackling something that I know you'll find incredibly useful.
Oh, yeah.
How to confidently talk about your plans and goals in English.
That's a good one.
Whether you're prepping for that big job interview, just chatting with friends, or navigating a tricky work meeting, this is essential stuff.
Absolutely.
We're using a fantastic episode from Marco and Erica's Let's Talk English podcast to guide us.
I love that podcast.
Me too.
What's fascinating about this topic is that even seemingly simple words like plan and goal have these subtle layers of meaning that can really impact how you come across.
Yeah, and I love how Marco and Erica jump right into the practical stuff.
Yeah, they're good at that.
They break down common phrases for expressing plans. Things like planning to, going to, intend to, and hope to.
Yeah, those are the basics.
But what I found really insightful is how they highlight the formality of each phrase.
Oh, that's so key, because you wouldn't want to use super casual language in a formal setting.
Right.
Imagine saying, I'm going to dominate this market in a board meeting.
Oh, yeah.
It just doesn't have the same weight as saying, we intend to become a market leader.
Yeah.
The latter shows more intention and commitment.
Totally. And then they flip the script and show how going to is perfect for casual conversations.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't say, I intend to grab pizza tonight to your friends.
No, absolutely.
It would sound way too stiff.
Way too formal.
And what's cool is that this understanding of formality applies to a lot of English expression.
Absolutely.
It's not just about these future plans phrases.
It's a general principle.
Once you start noticing it, you can really fine-tune your language to fit any situation.
Like a chameleon.
All right, so we've got the plan expressions down.
Check.
But what about when we're talking about goals? Marco and Erica make a really helpful distinction between plans, which are about actions, and goals, which are the desired results.
That's an important distinction.
It's like having the roadmap versus the destination.
Yeah, exactly.
You might plan to hit the gym 3 times a week, but your goal is to get in better shape. And having specific phrases for expressing your goals just makes your English sound so much more polished.
Absolutely. They give us a whole bunch of phrases like, my main goal is I aim to, I'm working towards, and in the long run, I want to.
Right.
They even go a step further and show how the grammar behind these phrases subtly changes the meaning.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting.
For example, I aim to is present tense and suggests immediate action, but I'm working towards implies an ongoing effort over time.
And you can see how understanding these subtle distinctions would be helpful in a job interview, right?
Sure.
If you tell the interviewer, I'm working towards becoming a project manager, it shows that you're proactive and committed to professional growth.
Exactly. It paints a picture of someone who's actively taking steps towards their goals, not just dreaming about them.
But I'm curious, what are some other situations where these phrases might come up? I'm thinking maybe when you're having a casual chat with friends.
Definitely. Imagine you're catching up with a friend and they ask, so what are you up to these days? Instead of just saying, oh, same old, same old.
Yeah.
You could say something like, well, in the long run, I want to start my own business, so I'm taking some online courses and networking.
Oh, that's good.
It adds depth to the conversation and shows you're thinking about your future.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like you're subtly showcasing your ambition and drive without being boastful.
Right.
And it also opens up the conversation for your friend to share their own aspirations.
Exactly. It turns a simple catch-up into a more meaningful exchange. But to really drive the point home, Marco and Erica bring these expressions to life with these awesome role-play scenarios.
Yeah, those are fantastic. They act out a job interview, a chat between friends, and a business meeting.
Yeah.
It really helps to see how these phrases naturally fit into different situations.
And what I found really insightful is how they pointed out the subtle power dynamics at play in each scenario. Like in the job interview, the interviewee, using phrases like, I'm planning to, or my goal is to, subtly positions themselves as someone with a clear vision and direction.
It's almost like they're taking control of the narrative and showing the interviewer they're not just passively looking for any job. They're strategically pursuing a specific career path.
Right. And it's not just about impressing the interviewer.
Yeah.
Using this kind of language can actually boost your own confidence. When you can articulate your goals clearly, it reinforces your commitment to them.
It's like speaking your aspirations into existence. And then in their friend chat scenario, they totally nail the casual vibe.
Yeah.
The phrases are much more relaxed, like, I'm thinking about, or I might try to.
And it highlights a really important point.
What's that?
Even in casual settings, the way you talk about your future can reveal a lot about your personality and mindset.
Oh, interesting.
Someone who uses vague language like, I don't know, maybe I'll travel someday, might come across as a bit unfocused or lacking direction.
Whereas someone who says, I'm saving up to go backpacking through Southeast Asia next year, sounds much more determined and adventurous.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how even subtle shifts in language can have such a big impact on how people perceive us.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so valuable to pay attention to how native speakers use these expressions in different contexts.
Right.
Marco and Erica even suggest watching movies and TV shows or listening to other podcasts to pick up on these nuances.
It's like language immersion through entertainment.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that approach. But let's get back to those common mistakes Marco and Erica talked about. The one that stood out to me was mixing up will and going to. I know this trips a lot of English learners up.
And it's understandable because the difference is quite subtle,
Yeah.
but it all boils down to intentionality. Will is often used for spontaneous decisions like, oh, I forgot my wallet, I'll run back and grab it. Whereas going to implies a premeditated plan like, I'm going to apply for that new job opening next week.
So it's like will is for things you decide in the moment, and going to is for things you've already thought about and planned to do. And this distinction applies even when talking about predictions.
Right.
If you say, I think it will rain tomorrow, it's based on a gut feeling or current weather patterns. But if you say it's going to rain tomorrow, it implies you've seen the weather forecast.
That's a great example. And it highlights how important it is to choose the right expression to accurately convey your meaning. Using will, when you actually mean going to, could make you seem less organized or decisive, especially in a professional setting.
Right. And I think the key takeaway here is that mastering these subtle distinctions isn't just about being grammatically correct.
It's about more than that.
It's about becoming a more effective communicator and ensuring your message is understood exactly as you intended.
And that's where the real power of language lies. It's not just about words and grammar, it's about using language strategically to achieve your goals, whether it's acing a job interview, making a great first impression, or simply having more meaningful conversations.
But Marco and Erica didn't just focus on the practical side of things. They also posed this really thought-provoking question.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
How can understanding the nuances of these expressions deepen our understanding of how people communicate their intentions and aspirations in different cultures and contexts?
That's a brilliant question. It encourages us to think beyond just the surface level of language and consider the deeper cultural values embedded within it.
It's like language is a window into a culture's worldview.
Exact.
For example, in some cultures, it might be considered rude or boastful to talk about your future plans in too much detail, especially if you haven't achieved them yet.
Whereas in other cultures, expressing your ambitions openly is seen as a sign of confidence and drive.
So even if you're speaking grammatically correct English, you could still accidentally offend someone if you're not aware of these cultural sensitivities.
It's all about context.
That's why it's so important to be mindful of your audience and the context of the conversation.
Right.
And it also highlights how language learning can be a journey of cultural discovery.
Absolutely.
The more you learn about a language, the more you learn about the people who speak it.
Exactly. It's about broadening your horizons and developing a deeper appreciation for the diversity of human expression. But even within the English-speaking world, there are subtle regional differences in how people talk about their plans and goals.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before. Could you give us some examples?
Sure. For instance, in some parts of the United States, people tend to be more direct and explicit when expressing their goals. They might say things like, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, without any hesitation.
Whereas in other regions like the UK, people might be a bit more understated or self-deprecating. They might say something like, I'm hoping to get a promotion, but we'll see how it goes, even if they're actually quite confident about their chances.
Exactly. And these regional variations can sometimes lead to misunderstandings.
Oh, I see.
Someone from a more direct culture might misinterpret someone from a more understated culture as lacking ambition or drive.
So it's not just about learning the grammar and vocabulary of a language.
Nope.
It's about understanding the subtle cultural cues and communication styles that influence how people express themselves.
And that's what makes language learning so fascinating. It's a continuous journey of discovery, not just about the language itself, but about the world and the people who inhabit it.
And I think Marco and Erica did a fantastic job of capturing that sense of wonder and exploration in their episode. They provided practical tips, real-life examples, and even encouraged their listeners to actively practice these expressions.
It's a holistic approach to language learning that goes beyond just memorizing phrases.
Hmm.
It's about developing a deeper understanding of how language works and how to use it effectively in different situations.
But they also left us with that lingering question. How can understanding the nuances of these expressions not only improve our language skills, but also deepen our understanding of how people communicate their intentions and aspirations in different cultures and contexts? It's a question worth pondering as we continue our English language journey. It makes you realize that language is so much more than just words on a page or sounds in the air.
Oh, for sure.
It's a reflection of who we are, where we come from, and what we aspire to be.
And the way we talk about our future plans and goals
Mhm.
can reveal a lot about our cultural values, our personality, and even our level of confidence.
Right.
It's like a hidden code that we can learn to decipher.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Okay.
I'm curious, what are some of your biggest takeaways? What really resonated with you from Marco and Erica's insights?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
For me, it's the importance of understanding the subtle nuances of language.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just know the basic meaning of a word or phrase.
Right.
We need to be aware of the connotations, the cultural implications, and the subtle ways in which language can be used to influence a conversation.
I completely agree. And I think that's where the real magic of language learning lies.
The magic.
It's not just about memorizing grammar rules or vocabulary lists.
Yeah.
It's about developing a deeper understanding of how language works and how to use it effectively in different situations.
And it's about being open to new perspectives and ways of thinking. Each language we learn opens up a new world of possibilities and helps us to see the world through different eyes.
So if you're feeling inspired to level up your English conversation skills, I highly recommend checking out Marco and Erica's podcast.
Yes, definitely.
They have a knack for breaking down complex language concepts in a fun and engaging way.
And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you use these expressions in real-life conversations, the more natural and confident you'll become.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we learn and grow.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Embrace the challenge, have fun with it, and keep exploring the power of language to connect, inspire, and transform